broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey guys, welcome back to Grimm at AFTERBUZZ TV. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. We're talking about Dyin on a Prayer.
Dying on it.
As usual, my fantastic panel is here, Dillon Chance and Yael Tygiel.
Hi.
But I'm so excited, you guys. I can't contain my excitement that we are joined today by Bree Turner, Rosalee herself.
Yay.
Bree, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's
so excited.
Rosalee has been, to gush a little bit, has been one of my favorite characters in the show because a lot of times TV shows, when they have a character come in with like these dark backstories, I mean, they can be fairly one note, they can be tossed aside very easily, but you've stuck around and it's been a great journey.
Oh, cool.
He's
Thank
not
you
lying.
for noticing.
He's liked you the whole time.
Well, they've written, it's a very nice character. It's the reason why I joined the show. It was such a fully formed character in her first episode. I was like, wow, this is very cool, very unusual.
Yeah. How early on did you know that you were going to be sticking around for the long haul?
I didn't. You know, it was that season 1, I was in, I think, 5 episodes, and that was sort of a test run, I'm going to be honest. I mean, there was no guarantee of me joining the show full time. You never know. I mean, I was hired off-site. I'd never met Silas. You know, a lot of that stuff is chemistry, and you know, if it's not working, it's not working. But luckily, it worked out. And then I really thought I wasn't going to come back because I found out I was pregnant with my second child in the middle of those episodes. So I was like, well, this was fun. I'm obviously done with the show, but they worked through that, and because they're an amazing group, and now here I am.
That's when you went off with your
My
family.
dying aunt.
Yeah. Michelle, right.
That was my favorite.
Who wasn't at my wedding.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not that close.
That was my favorite way to we got to deal with some stuff, so we're gonna just take care of this. All right, she's gone, she'll be back.
Full disclosure, to be totally fair, now that we're so far away from it, I ended up having a sudden complication with my pregnancy, and I had to leave, which everything's fine, but I had to leave about 3 episodes earlier than I was supposed to leave, so that's why it felt very abrupt, because they had to rewrite that, and I had 1 day to shoot that whole episode with Angelina, where, this is just insider trivia, I shot all my stuff about almost a month before they shot that episode, so all my coverage is shot with a stand-in, Angelina, and then they almost a month later shot the whole other half of Angelina's coverage with my stand-in. So it was quite a complicated production to get that pulled off, but it was totally seamless, and you know, I can't believe it happened. I can't believe they pulled it off.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Fun fact.
You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, you really can't tell at all.
It's a credit to just the skill that goes into making a show like this.
Yeah, it's pretty top-notch production.
What has been your favorite part of this character, like your favorite moment of this character over the seasons?
Well, I have a few. I mean, I would say my first episode 15 in season 1, is still one of my favorite scripts and journeys for Rosalee, because we meet her and she's guarded and nervous and obviously crushed by her brother's murder, and then she finds out, wait, there's a Grimm, and then there's a Grimm who's friends with another Vesson, and what the hell, and like, this is all weird, and I'm leaving. I'm closing up the shop, and I'm going back to Seattle. And then it was such an organic arc, that whole episode, from meeting her to then sort of the opening of the possibility of staying, and then that sweet ending scene with Monroe and Rosalee, where he brings her flowers after I save his life with a brick. That it was just such a beautiful little story in its own story, you know, and so that's still one of my favorites. And then, all the domestic stuff last year was a blast to shoot. It's sometimes I hear like, oh, here you were at season 1 and then here you are being a different person season 2. But I have to say, I think Rosalee was searching for a new identity. I mean, she was a lost soul and she found safety and love in Monroe. And I think she was able to live the life she always wanted to live and never thought she deserved to live. And I think it's totally justifiable that she goes all in domestic with him and wants this quiet life after her background. So a lot of that stuff was really fun. I mean, the engagement episode was so sweet, and the wedding episode obviously was incredible. But I have to say there's a few episodes that are coming up that we just finished shooting that are, I think, my favorite because it is such a departure from what we've seen with Monroe and Rosalee, the circumstances that they're in, and Rosalee gets back to a little bit more of her street self, and those skills come in very handy. And Monroe goes back to his more primal side, and because of this situation they're in, and it was very satisfying 3-episode arc we just finished.
I'm pretty excited.
Very
Oh my god.
The anticipation is building. But let's talk about our episode, this episode, because you had a nice little storyline in this one. Because there's all kinds of craziness, and so I like that
This
we're
one's
getting
wild. It's totally bonkers.
I like that we're getting back into the Spice Shop and using like the magic that's there.
Yeah, and that is true. I mean, even though we loved the Rosalee house domestic stuff last season, I think Silas and I both feel like it's kind of fun to like get down and dirty again. Like he's leaving me, he's out with the boys doing his shit, and I'm like back at the Spice Shop being brilliant. And so it's nice that we're getting back into like old school Grimm structure in this season, which is nice.
Yeah, the Scooby Gang hang
The Scooby Gang is coming back.
But so far from being saved by a brick, now the brick comes through the window.
Yes.
Bearing the wolf songle.
No,
Did I get that right?
You did.
I try really hard and I fail a lot of the time.
You have to say the hardest words on the show.
Oh, yeah. And then just recently, Bitsy had to she had this like 22-letter word she had to say. But then she had to leave the scene. She had to be written out because she needed to be somewhere else in the story suddenly. So then I had to say that word, and I texted her. I was like, thanks.
Yeah.
Now I have to say this word because all my words are so crazy.
I'm pretty sure I know what word that was.
I know. I'm trying to find it in my old notes.
I even tweeted at you. I said, say that 5 times.
The one from the premiere?
Yeah. Was it the premiere?
The name of the spell.
Oh, the Gewiltensvillingsfester?
That's the one.
That's it.
Yeah.
We had some fun trying to say that again. But so the brick comes through the window, and it's sort of we weren't sure who these wolf mask guys were last week. We had all kinds of crazy theories, but I think we didn't even consider the possibility that it's just a straight up hate crime.
Yes. Yes, which we learn in this episode, and this starts a trajectory of dark days for the couple. This is a group that's been touched upon, with last season with Monroe's parents, being such, starting out such horrible bigots, really coming in and just like despicable things they're saying to me because we're an interspecies couple, and then they get to the other side of that. But that kind of started the conversation of this is really looked down upon in the Vesson community, and it's we're kind of like Brave New World. We're reinventing what Vesson couples look like, and we're going to be the face of it. And so we're saying we're staying strong to that, but there are some very extremist, very fundamentalist groups of Vesson out there, and that's who those people are, and then we're going to learn more about them, and this is like kind of a ticking time bomb that's going to start to happen. Yeah,
and there's so many at stake here, like different ways that it could go, especially with a couple. Children are in play, and you can imagine that the parallels between this and gay marriage is the major issue today, and it's a very makes it a strong image, and that's one of the things I like about Grimm. They're not afraid to take those swings and put it in your face and hold a mirror up to society.
No, I think this genre really allows freedom for that without being too heavy-handed with it. You just you can really talk about real serious social issues in this genre and do it in these different kind of ways. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is will we be able to survive this this strife, this dividing line that's coming between us? Is it worth it?
Yeah, and I think the different viewpoints that Rosalee and Monroe have at this point, because he very much tries to paint it in a positive light. He's like, oh, it's the Wolfsongle, it's positive.
Oh yeah, I love that little exchange. Like, oh, there's forestry, teamsters. And I'm like, what? They're not forestry teamsters, whatever I say. And I love that little exchange of that's such a clear personality difference between the two. Where he, which I love is. He's this big, scary, bad wolf, but then he's, Pilates, vegan, optimist, glass half full kind of guy. And I'm actually, I think with my background of the, political side of my family and working with the resistance and, knowing like what's really going on, is I'm kind of a, more of a wah-wah.
I disagree. I think Rosalee, because she comes from this street, she had a little bit of a dark side. She also is political, and she's also incredibly smart. And I think she's just as...
She's just a realist.
Yeah, but she's just as well-rounded.
Oh, yeah.
As Monroe.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Monroe has softened her in all those ways, which has been, such a nice sort of arc with Rosalee. And I think what's exciting coming up for her and what I wish for Rosalee would be playing out more of her activist nature, which I don't think she knew she had until Monroe, because of what you're saying, that he's sort of softened the edges on Rosalee and kind of shown her that no, things can be different, we can do things differently. And I think it's sparked the activist side of her, which I think is cool to explore.
Yeah, one of the moments that I really liked from Rosalee in this episode was because we get Elizabeth coming back and she's brewing her potion.
And how sexy is Louise Lombard? She's just like the coolest mama Hexenbeast witch.
Oozes power.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
She's really
Sexy
nailed
power.
it. She really nailed it.
But that moment when you guys come back in and it's Adeland.
Yeah.
And it's, what do we do? What are you doing here? But when your fascination with it, the way you lean in, like, oh my God, look at this, is something that I think during the domestic parts of last season that we lost, that scientist angle.
Exactly. Like, she is a scientist. It's cool that you noticed that. I think I always try to look at things that way. I always try to remember Rosalee has become one of the best in her field. And she, she came from a family of apothecaries, but I always think that Rosalee had the most talent out of anyone in her family, but, the most amount of fear with it too. Like, not owning up to your true potential kind of stuff. And she's now really in her wheelhouse with confidence. And I think just the fascination of, wow, here's a spell I've never seen before, and how, and just to understand it in more of a geeky science mind is, I always like to kind of remember that in those scenes.
Yeah, and then so you guys this is very much out of your hands at this point, other than pulling things off of shelves. Mixing this potion. Because this is some next level stuff, because when she comes in, like, the Hexenbeast that she transforms into is so much scary. Out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that moment too. Like, okay, we're good. Yeah, you stay here. She's on another level. Yeah. And I think as you saw last week, I think I was trying to be steely about it, but definitely nervous. Hexenbeasts are, we're creatures, and I'm working in this apothecary world of spells, but Hexenbeasts, they're like magic. That's the dark arts. That's the dark side of Vesson, culture, and it's like very scary to Vesson, such as Monroe and Rosalee, and so they don't really know what to expect from her. So I think being in that storage unit, the knife, Silas played that scene so well of like nervousness and yeah, she's not like, can we trust her? They're not to be trusted, Hexenbeast.
Yeah, they're dangerous.
Definitely.
Like Nick is in a lot of danger in this episode, and so we'll get into the golem stuff. Saying it like the Pokemon.
Golem.
But I should know that. I grew up on that story. Yeah. Anyway, but so when you guys come in and at the end, just the detail to tell Nick the news that effectively they're going to need Juliet to give Nick back his powers.
Oh, man, she is like got the short end of the stick with this stuff.
I just appreciate that it was asked if Nick is supposed to sleep with Elizabeth, because I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. Like, now he has to sleep with Elizabeth as...
That's how effed everything is. That we're just like, oh, well, this is how it works. You guys have to get in bed. You know, like, of course.
Would he have to get in bed with her as Adeline, or as Adeline as Juliet?
So confusing. It's so crazy, but it totally works.
No, as Adeline, so it would be
get in bed with all three of them.
Oh, see, yeah. We're like, is this such a bad deal for Nick? I don't know. I mean, he's got like basically a free pass, you know.
Yeah.
That's the unlicensed parody version of Grimm.
I'm writing that version. Meisner makes an appearance.
We're Meisner. Yeah. Meisner suddenly in that scene.
Of course.
All right, this got weird, so we're going to move forward. Let's talk about the main storyline in this episode for a little bit. I don't know how you guys felt, and like, because... Bree, you've seen so many different villains over this. This was one of my favorite monsters. Partially because Yael and I were talking about this a little bit before, because we're both Jewish, and we grew up with this story. It's one of the very few Jewish monsters or folklore stories. There's not a lot of them, and this is such a classic one because it's essentially the influence for any science fiction robot story builds from the golem. Frankenstein builds from the golem. So to see the hubris of bringing a creature to life that you cannot control, to do one task, but what happens when you lose control of that creature is a great dramatic story. And I was just really excited.
I thought it was a really interesting script, and a departure from a lot of things that we've done. And I always like when we kind of go rogue a little bit, like this isn't really a Wesen, and kind of like La Inora that we did. We've done a few of these where
and the volcano
and Volcanus and that they're kind of undefiable creatures, and it's sort of
Krampus.
Krampus was a Wesen.
Well,
but he like switched bodies, so he was kind of like a weird kind of legendary.
Because he wasn't conscious of his transformation.
And he moved around.
I think it's kind of like the overall theme of darkness is lurking everywhere, and there's not just one shape of it in this world that we live in. But just also the religious aspect of this. To shoot in that beautiful synagogue we have in Northwest Portland, and just to sort of I love about our show is we're constantly bringing in new cultures each week, sort of talking about different people, different cultures, and what their folklore and beliefs are, and I think that's very cool.
It is really
just
cool.
Another kind of way to do it. But the creature, the fact that I remember reading it when Nick has to get aggro at the end on the kid. I'm like, oh. No, but that's also why I like our show so much, is because you read that and you're like, oh, that's not very likable. Like Nick, like pushing a kid, but I feel like he's got to get he's got to get things done. And that's what is fun about.
And then he says, writing. "I'll never yell at a kid."
Yeah, I'm never doing that again.
Well, then Trouble also pushes the kid. She like shoves him out of the way to distract the golem.
Well, that was more of a get back.
Well, because then he's like, "You pushed me," and then the guy turns. Yeah. Trouble. She picks up on things. And I like that this episode we get to see her realize she was like, wait, there are things other than Wesen out there?
Right.
And it reminds us, because I kind of forgot, I was like, oh, wait, we do have other things to fear.
There's a lot of scary stuff in this world.
Especially in Portland.
Portland is terrifying. I'm never going there.
I don't know that. You don't want to go to Portland.
There's a lot of bad things happening in Portland.
Every scary creature from every fairy tale around the world ends up in Portland.
There's double homicides like every week in Portland. And we live in Los Angeles, and that seems scary.
I know. And Portland has been like such a beautiful host to us. It's kind of funny that we just like every week are dropping these bombs on the city, but it's just such a great backdrop for these stories we're telling, you know, and there's just so many cool locations to shoot in that kind of amplify these moments in our shows, make them even creepier.
Do you, so is Portland sort of, do you spend like, I guess most of the year up there
I
while
have
you guys are shooting?
pretty much relocated there with my family because we shoot 10 months a year. Wow. And yeah, we're like old school 22 episode style. So there's really not much downtime. You know, and then my days off, you're filled with doing post-production stuff. So I was commuting the first couple years, but finally I just made the leap, which I'm super happy about. I mean, it's a great lifestyle up there. It's a beautiful city.
Yeah. I
love it.
And we hope you get to stay up there for a long time.
I know, me too. I know.
But so there's, speaking of families, we open on our family. This little family that unfortunately is dealing with a very drunk husband.
Oh, right, yeah.
See, that was my seamless transition.
Oh, yeah, I was like, where are we going? Yes, I got it now.
And this guy is, he's apparently, we found out he's a stepdad.
Yeah.
Like when he's saying, I want to see his family, I assume he's like a dad who wants to see his kid, but this is even more outrageous that he's like hitting his former wife. It's not even his kid, but even regardless.
I think that was also kind of like because he's Wesen, you know, that to kind of justify why the kid isn't or why it's unknown, you know. So yeah, I don't know why I had to say that.
Yeah, and I guess
correct.
Correct.
No, that's right.
When he goes to scare the kid, he transforms. I believe it's a hayslick. Looks like a troll.
Yes. Why are you looking at me like I know this?
Yeah, you know.
Is he? That might have changed. Oh yeah.
We don't know.
We were trying to get.
Okay.
Yes.
Because they don't technically say, and usually we have enough time to see the Grimm Wiki, and they tell us all the Wesen names.
We get help when it's, because when they don't say it, it's tough to be like, that one's that one. And it's only really 2 quick shots of when we get
He ain't
Nate.
cute. I mean, by the end of the day, he's not cute.
Right.
Regardless of what he is, he's scary.
Yeah, he's
No
scary looking.
Meisner.
Well, we got confirmed that Meisner's not Wesen.
That doesn't bother you.
No.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me at all.
It's a good
She does
thing.
not discriminate.
Yeah. But it's at this point, like, they get to run out, they get to safety, and when they wind up in the hospital, this is when the brother comes in.
Right.
And decides he's going to do something about it. And so he goes to the temple and conjures a golem.
He doesn't conjure, he prays for protection from with the golem.
Well, he prays, but in effect, he conjures it.
Yes. Through prayer.
And I loved the brother's storyline in this, like the rabbi.
Rabbi Ben.
He's her brother, not.
I know. I'm just clarifying.
Sarah's
which
brother, Ben,
Yeah.
the rabbi.
The rabbi.
Yes,
Right.
Not brother Ben. That's totally different.
I think my favorite part is when the little boy calls him Uncle Ben, and I was like, rice bowls.
Oh,
Rice bowls.
I went Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's why I was like, oh no, Uncle Ben. He's in danger.
I think I would have gone rice bowls.
I was hungry.
This table is very divided.
Yeah. So.
But so yeah, it's a great storyline. Unfortunately, I know that Bree, you have to get out of here.
Oh, no.
You have. I'm getting the signal to let you go because I know you have a ton of stuff because the show's going to premiere. Well, in our time, it's going to premiere in a few hours. You at home don't know that because you're watching this after it airs. But Bree, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm
It's
so
been a
glad you
blast.
guys liked the episode tonight.
Oh,
I
we
think
love
it's
it.
a cool
We love every
episode,
episode.
and next week is like we're ramping up speed, and it's like a train that's left the station, and
You got to come back
bullet train.
and bring Monroe, and then we can say Rosalee.
It's shorter. We only when you tweet, you only have 140 characters.
Like, when we're on set and they're wrangling us to the house, like Monrosalee's house. I mean, it's totally seeped into every department.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. If the fans want to follow you or keep up with you, where's the best place to go?
Fans can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @RealBreeTurner, REAL Bree Turner.
Great.
That's where I am.
Well, thank you so much again. I can't say it enough. It's been a real
Thank you for
blast.
having me. This is fun.
All right. Well, we're gonna keep going.
Okay, so do I leave?
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
Okay, Bree.
You take off.
Leave. Okay, I'm leaving. Goodbye. All right.
Thank
you.
Thank you so much.
Water in my purse.
Okay. So. I'm gonna take this
so guys,
moment.
we're gonna take this moment
Yeah.
to while we leave to talk about iTunes real quick.
Okay. Here we go.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in. It is because of you guys that we can get amazing guests like Bree into the studio. And one of the best ways that you can help us continue to get those guests, because the networks want to know that you guys are enjoying the show, that you're having fun, that you're appreciating the so much fun that we get to have having these guests in the studio. And the best way that you can do that is to go on to iTunes. And we say it every week, but you guys make this the best fan. And by going onto iTunes, you help raise the water level of the network, because you help keep the podcasts visible. You help keep making us what I hope is your number one Grimm podcast. And you also, when you write on iTunes, you get a little shout out on the show.
Yay.
So I want to thank some people. Dan Felix 609 says, first podcast ever. I stumbled across your show on YouTube and instantly got hooked to the podcast, along with subscribing to AfterBuzz. I never listened to podcasts before the show. All the hosts are great and obviously in love with the show, which makes the show awesome. Yeah. You guys are one of our hosts, and I'm totally in love with Trouble and her character. I'm on board with Zach and Dillon that she needs to have her own spinoff. # Trouble in Paradise.
Yes! # Trouble in Paradise.
I just want to clarify, I don't disagree that she needs Trouble in Paradise. I just would rather she stays.
Yeah.
Oh, you just wanted her to stay on.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I just want this person, what is his name?
Dan.
Dan. I too like Trouble in Paradise.
I don't think we're doubting that. We're just the ones that won't shut up about it.
Well, I won't shut up about Meisner. So what are you
exactly. Lowen Girl, clearly a fan, says, great job. I mainlined all 3 seasons of Grimm before Halloween and thought that I would see if there were other Grimm fans like me discussing plot lines and anticipating the show. Lo and behold, I discovered this podcast and couldn't be more excited. I love your banter, and Woo's clues really cracks me up. Helpful podcast. Triple B07 says, great panel, like the Buffy and Angel references.
Yeah.
And Inuyasha Girl says, love the podcast. Not many podcasts out there on Grimm yet. It is one of my favorite shows. And then she mentioned that we don't most of the time come out on Sundays. Unfortunately, that's just with rare exceptions like this. Yeah. We just have to. That's when we can get into the studio.
Right.
There's so many shows here at AfterBuzz because they do over 80 shows a week, 300 different shows in total.
Yeah.
There's only so many studios based at one time.
Had to do this today for free.
But thank you for tuning in Sundays normally at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
With that, let's get back into this, because now let's dig deep into this Golem storyline. I just can't get over the animation. Even just the simple animation in this episode of the Golem was amazing.
It was really cool.
It was seamless. It was smooth. It was scary. Most of all, the idea that it engulfs its victims in clay, basically drowning them in clay,
stuffing them with clay.
Yeah.
Every time they came out, the first time he did it, they came out and the guy was just like huge.
Yeah, the body was inflated.
It was gross. And I was like, what happened? And I was like, did he just fill his whole insides with clay? Yes. Disgusting.
Out of every orifice, I believe they say.
They do say that. It reminds me of in X-Men 2, the way that that Wolverine deals with what's her name, Lady Deathstrike. He fills her with adamantium and she sinks. That's what it reminded me of. No,
all right.
Nobody?
All right.
No X-Men fans? What the hell?
I love that.
Thank you. We reference good movies here at AfterBuzz.
Okay,
that's a great movie. X2 United.
Okay, so it wasn't a good movie, but it's
X2.
X-Men. I love X-Men.
Back on topic.
X-Men.
So let's. What I love about the other stuff about the Golem and the way they do it in this episode is they drop in these very real. I did a little bit more research on the Golem, and they drop these very real references to how he came to find it.
Right.
Rabbi Judah Lowe. That's considered the first person the first story to really tell about the Golem. It started with him, and the attic that it's supposedly in. I saw pictures of you can go to this place.
Yeah.
So I guess a documentary crew could conceivably have gone and found it.
Right.
So we just need to send a documentary crew over there right now. So
we could be the documentary crew.
I'm going to make it a safe assumption that at least one writer on the writing team, safe assumption, is Jewish, and therefore grew up knowing the story. And as we've seen, they bring in all these different cultures, and either knew all this information ahead of time or did his research when he or she was like, you know what, I want to tell this story. I want to tell my culture's story. Let me bring it. So I'm assuming that is why it's such good and correct information. Also want to point out that Rabbi Ben played a rabbi on Weeds. This actor has played a rabbi twice. And I remember
right.
the episode starts and I was like, that's the rabbi. Oh, he's a rabbi again. And his Hebrew, not bad. Shout out to that actor.
Yeah.
Your Hebrew's not bad.
And when he tells the story, he talks about the reason the golem existed was originally to protect the Jews from the Roman emperor during those horrible times when they were being persecuted. Yeah. And when you dig into the stories, you get a little bit more of what happened was that basically they raised the golem and it keeps growing as it attacks people, and it just grows into a monstrous size to where it cannot be controlled anymore and ends up destroying everything. And that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier with the hubris that's tied to the golem story is just don't unleash a force that you can't control.
Yeah.
And like the worries about that, and the show I thought did a great job with that because all he asks for is protection for David. Please protect David. That's all he wanted. And he doesn't think it's going to happen. He just is prayer. That's what a rabbi knows more than anything else. He figures the slightest thing, and then of course it goes on a double homicide rampage.
Right.
I like where they even say like, man, this kid's going to leave a body trail with a guardian angel like that.
That's such a good line.
I mean, and the golem storyline isn't I think Sleepy Hollow did it last season. The idea of a guardian who's violently going to protect you is a great story, especially for something like this.
Yeah. I mean, Golem's story isn't new.
No,
by
I
any
mean,
means. And it's been in, I want to say, pretty much any genre series like this or Sleepy Hollow. And so we last season were even thinking about, wait, have we done this story yet? No, we haven't seen it yet. And I'm really glad that they decided to go with it the way they went with it, as opposed to making it a Vesson.
Yes.
I think it would have been a completely different story, and it would have been not only incorrect, but boring, I think.
I don't know that it necessarily would have been boring, but this was by far more interesting.
Yes.
Because of the idea, as Trouble says, that this is there's more than just Vesson.
Right.
I thought I had a handle on this.
No, I love the more than just Vesson. I say it all the time. I love these like extreme creatures that they can't explain at all.
Right.
Which is why I was worried last time with the science stuff. Because if they start trying to explain some things with science, are they going to try and explain everything with science? Because some things you just can't explain.
Right.
I think the eyes was a nice little one that you could drop.
I'll let that one slide.
I like it. I think you're right though that like this episode, even Hank and Nick are like, how are we going to explain this?
You can't.
Yeah, like,
that's the best part about it.
And
try explaining that to the DA.
I have a question. My question is, how is it that when this rabbi prays and tries to bring the golem, he does it, whereas I'm sure other parts of the world,
well, he has the
stuff,
he has the leftover, the remains,
right?
So that, and he has the specific scroll that works.
All right.
I think of it more as a like.
He had all the pieces.
He had all the pieces together,
Okay.
and he did it, and it worked.
Right.
Everyone else probably tried it with, this scroll, but that's not the right scroll.
Right.
They didn't have the
this
clay.
but it's not the clay.
I think
see
that
what
was
you're
the idea, is that clay was blessed
Yeah.
at a certain point, enchanted
Or enchanted. or
to
anything like
create the golem.
And thus it ends in Portland.
that. Yes, always. We've discussed this.
I wonder if they're ever going to get into why Portland is the hub of all this insanity, or if it really is everywhere, and we just don't know.
We just don't know. I'm hoping we see more of these extreme creatures, like like Volcanus and stuff like that. Maybe since we had Krampus last year, maybe this year we can have like Jack Frost or the Abominable Snowman.
Ooh, I like Jack Frost.
I also like Jack
that would be
Frost.
really cool.
Yeah.
I don't want them to go too far with these non-Vesson, because they shouldn't
Yeah,
be.
very rarely.
I want them
You
to
need them to
be
be
like
rare.
one a season at most,
okay.
because they're such. They become less exciting if they're not rare.
True.
I had the greatest idea. If
Oh.
Jack Frosts were like the Grimm, it's a thing that gets passed on. Jack Frosts are a thing, like Grimms.
Ooh, so there's like only like one or two at a time.
Yeah.
Like it's just one lineage has basically the frozen power.
Right.
The frozen power.
Frozen.
Yes.
Yep.
Once upon a time's doing it. We got it.
We can do it too.
We can do it better and
We'll
darker.
call it Jack Frost. Therefore,
Yeah.
we're not stealing the ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
Done. Boom.
That's they'll probably since they've probably already written and taped the Christmas episodes for this year. So next year, there you go.
Yeah. And by then it'll be people like, oh yeah, Frozen was a thing.
Yeah.
But so what I liked in the other part of this episode that I really enjoyed was Trouble.
Oh, trouble. Always trouble.
She's so good with kids.
Like who knew? Who
Now,
knew that
we
she
have
was...
another spinoff, Babysitter Trouble. So we could just call it that.
Trouble-
Babysitter Trouble.
I was going to
That's not
say
as clever.
Trouble in Babysitting.
That's better.
Trouble in
Or
Babysitting.
Trouble with Babysitting.
Trouble with babysitting.
Oh God. There's so many things
There's
you could
so
do
many-
with the name Trouble.
Babysitting trouble.
Is that what I said?
No.
What did I say? I'm pretty
Whatever.
sure I said that.
Regardless, I thought it was great that
Trouble in a
she
Baby.
was able to talk to this kid. Here's my wild question though with
Yeah.
this kid because he talks about he gets scary. He's gonna eat me. Could he? I know that Vesson can show themselves.
Right.
My crazy thought was like, wait.
This kid's a Grimm.
This kid's a Grimm because they talked about how rare are Grimms.
Yeah.
They specifically mentioned it in this episode, and then there's a little kid who can see at least one Vesson.
They were showing.
Yeah, twice they showed him.
Yeah, and they were doing it to scare him
Yeah.
and
the dad
manipulate
and
him.
his uncle, the stepdad and the stepuncle, both did this to scare this kid.
Because imagine if they would have known he was a Grimm. They would have seen it in his eyes,
Yeah.
and they would have been like, we're gonna kill this kid because they
Right.
were evil.
Yes, they would have seen it.
Okay.
They were showing him.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. I was just excited that there might be another
No,
Grimm.
she's training. I think Trouble is training a little Van Helsing there, because he attacked that thing.
Well, because the thing was attacking Trouble.
Well, yeah, it's cute.
Yeah.
So cute.
Well, I guess
But
that's
he's gonna grow up to be. I feel like she's training a monster hunter. He's gonna grow up to like hunt down monsters without being able to see them.
He's going to go into the army.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's much braver. Like in his experience, and this is sort of the again, this episode is just really well written.
Yeah.
Because this is what a kid deals with when he's dealing with abuse issues. Like the bad guy wins. That's what he's seen. He's seen the bad guy come out on top so often that that's what has to happen.
That just gave me an idea. I'm sorry, Zach. Was Van Helsing a Grimm?
This is a pretty safe assumption.
Yeah,
I think.
I think
I mean, we know that there are vampire Vesson or vampire-like Vesson.
Yeah.
So if he was just going around, there's like a hive of them, and he just went around killing them.
And
Then
he was totally a Grimm. That's awesome.
Van Grimm.
I think it means we should go rewatch that movie.
Anyway,
Go
but
rewatch
so
Van Helsing.
basically, towards the end of this episode, when they have to confront this kid, like they learn that they have to
Threaten him.
and
To
Nick
call the
is
Golem.
forced to be a bad guy for a moment. Like not actually, like, he's doing
Right.
it for good reasons, but he has to, and they have to shove a scroll with the name of God written on it.
Yeah.
Which
Into his mouth.
yeah, a sham that's I believe they called it. Just they have to shove it into this clay monster's mouth.
So, for those who may or may not care, Hashem is the name of God, but it also translates to the name. So he had to write Hashem, which is the name, which is also the name of God, on the special scroll and put it in.
Yeah, and when you're dealing with
clarify.
the name of God in Hebrew, there's like 18 different versions.
Yep. And they're all like the way people here will write like G-D. So there are ways in Hebrew to do the same thing.
Yep.
It's just like 2 letters. And it's,
Yud, yud.
Yeah, it's something like longer. It's Hebrew. Silly Hebrew.
But so they ended up like defeating it after basically not by actually using
No,
using
the
the
scroll.
they don't get the scroll on it.
But when it's only when David turns on the golem, when it pushes Trouble out of the way.
Well, so first Trouble pushes David. So the golem fights
Yes, you're right, you're right.
Nick, and
Well, first he
Nick
knocks
fails. Yeah.
the rabbi down.
Nick's not a Grimm anymore.
No.
He can't do jack.
Right.
Well,
So
that didn't
apparently
even
he doesn't have
help.
his
That
powers.
didn't even help Trouble.
Well, So then Trouble's like, oh, I got to distract it. So she shoves. I love that part. Maybe it's because I really love when people are mean to kids. She shoves the kid.
Jesus. Yeah.
No, not Jesus. This is a Jewish story.
Yeah, I heard it.
So she shoves the kid. He's like, what? Trouble? And then the golem turns, and then Trouble's like, I got this. And then when she's about to be defeated, the kid is like, no.
And he begins attacking, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he had the... No. He was just...
He didn't have the spray of the kid, the toy.
The toy, rather. It doesn't matter that he was hitting it with anything at all, but the fact that he was hitting it meant that it wasn't desired, it wasn't wanted, and so
done.
the golem wasn't needed anymore.
So it's not going to come back, though?
No,
Does
not
that cancel it out?
Not for David.
Okay.
They still have the clay and the scroll. Like they could theoretically like go to this rabbi and be like, "We need the golem," but they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Rabbi Ben.
It's an interesting. I mean, we skipped over the quote, but I want to talk about it real quick before we move past the
Was that
the
also
golems.
like maybe a little David and Goliath? David versus this giant. I know it's Goliath.
Stories.
I know it's not a golem, but I'm saying like maybe it's a tie-in.
David's just a super Jewy name.
Yeah.
Just a super David. Okay.
What were they? David, Nathan. Was her name Sarah or Rachel? Rachel.
I think it was Sarah.
Sarah.
It was Sarah Fisher.
Yeah.
It's a pretty
Fisher.
Jewish name.
They're all super Jewish.
I'm pretty sure I know a Sarah Fisher.
I'm pretty sure I know 5.
But the quote in this episode, which I also want to talk about briefly, was, "Oh, remember that you fashioned me from clay. Will you then bring me down to dust?" Which is actually from the book of Job.
Okay.
From a Christian book.
The
No, it's not. It's from... It's tied to more modern...
Job or Gob?
Job.
Way to confuse him.
I was only confused because I'm just getting thrown. Anyway.
You are distracted today.
I just met Bree Turner, you guys. I was distracted.
I sat next to her.
But so I think it's a good quote. It's actually not tied, despite it being religious. It isn't tied directly to this religious story.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting. An interesting choice. I don't know that we've had a Bible quote before.
We haven't? I feel like we have.
Maybe. I don't remember
give it to the
one.
fans.
Do we have a Bible quote?
Look it up. We have Bible quotes yet.
But moving on from the golem.
Yes.
Let's talk about Trouble. She comes clean about the crazy FBI agent group kidnapping thing.
Yeah.
She tells Nick finally.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Which is great. That was exactly the right arc for that. Like really quick, over just an episode of like, I was warned they might harm him, and Nick is in a very vulnerable state right now, where he could easily be killed.
Easily.
So
we've seen.
Yes.
Yeah. So it seems reasonable, and then she knows I have to tell you, but she like tricks them.
Well, I mean, I think it's really smart of her the way she did it, because she knew that she had to tell them, but she knew that she couldn't do it at home. Maybe it was bugged, so she was clever enough. Trouble is she's getting smarter. Not that she wasn't smart to begin with, but she's getting
tactical.
Yes, more tactical. She's thinking things through. She's not acting on impulse. I loved it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move forward because we still have two. You're gonna like what we're about to talk about because Renard comes back.
Yeah.
He's like a head taller than everyone in the precinct.
Yeah,
I just
he really
hope
is.
everyone else noticed that.
Yeah, and it's a real quick little thing because he basically just comes back and then everyone's like, welcome back, and then Woo's like, I gotta talk to you. And he brings up Trouble. He has a very high quality security camera picture.
The most high quality security camera picture I've ever seen, and I don't remember it being that high quality before.
It was that high quality this season.
Was it?
Yeah. So far since he brought it up, it's been that high quality. The first time we saw it, I could have sworn it was in black and white.
It was in black and white, and I think it was from above, not directly.
Okay.
Look, zoom and enhance.
Zoom and enhance.
Add color.
Add color.
Photoshop, zoom and enhance. It works magic.
Then it could have been anyone.
Nope.
Well, I really hope that is what the argument is, that he had it enhanced, and that then they're like, well, then it really isn't it, because Lionel does that all
it's
the
so
time.
perfectly clear.
Right, but SVU for those who watch Law and Order SVU, they do that all the time. Where if you enhance a photo, they're like, well, then it's not the original, and you can't say that that's really them because you could change all sorts of things. Maybe it's really.
But
a
Wu
blonde.
will still know,
Whatever.
and that will cause trouble. Trouble? Yeah.
But anyway, so basically, Wu wants him to look into like why this is there,
Yeah.
and Renard's in a very tough situation, which we don't really get to deal with very much in this episode, but it will definitely come up soon, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen to Wu when the captain probably shirks him off.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Say what you just said.
Just like
Shrugs him
shrugs. What did I say?
off. Not shrug. Okay.
Oh, I said shirk, didn't I?
Nope, you said something else. All
He
right.
said sure.
Okay.
I heard that show.
Sure. So no, I'm really glad that Wu. Yeah.
Mind out of the
her.
gutter.
You
It's always
said
her.
it. Okay. I'm really glad that Wu isn't letting go. I'm really glad that we are getting like that. Wu is like, I want to know these things. I'm not crazy. This is a very important question. He's not letting go, and he's gonna go after the answer. And I'm really glad because I was expecting this to be dragged out for more, and I'm glad that they're not. So thank you, writers.
Yes, and the writers are also potentially on something. I don't know what's going on
Potentially, they
with
are.
Adeland,
Oh my God.
who has one quick scene, but the freakiest scene of a very strange episode.
This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in this show.
I
I mean,
agree.
it's off the rails.
Yeah.
Like, whenever this started happening, I was like, where are we? What show is this? But I love it.
It's great because if you look back at when Claire Coffey was here, she very much was like, you go on an adventure of sorts. Like, some really good stuff is coming. And I was like, oh, like she's going to be in this dungeon for a while and like have some sort of discovery. Nope.
Nope.
No. She goes on an adventure.
Yeah.
Yep.
A major trip.
Last week she ate a brownie,
Yeah.
if you forgot.
Yeah.
And then now
She's tripping
she's seeing
balls.
faces
Yeah.
in the walls.
And they're crying.
They're crying
But
and
you're not
drowning
want
her.
to eat any of those brownies ever.
How much of that brownie did she have?
Like, oh, she probably ate the whole,
whole
thing.
thing.
She was
Yeah.
hungry.
Yeah.
She's literally drowning in tears.
Yeah.
As like these things are are like tricking her by saying, I know where your baby is.
In many languages.
Yeah, in every language, and the one she speaks, she's like,
Yeah.
she answers in French, please, like, tell me. And the dude just disappears.
Right.
Like our
He
little.
warned her. He said, don't stop. Don't listen to him.
Yep. Here's the question: Is he real? Is any of what's happening to her real?
Oh,
All
maybe
right.
it's some kind of crazy. They did build that dungeon for Hexen Beasts.
Yeah,
maybe
it's-
it's some kind of crazy cursed dungeon.
It's fair to assume that the faces on the walls aren't real because she ate a brownie.
And the water. I think it's fair to assume that the water isn't real.
Oh yeah. Basically everything that's going on in this
All right,
scene.
so here's my theory. I stand by what I said that he is, that it's actually Victor pulling a Jafar.
Okay.
I think that she and Jafard Victor go through the wall, and he starts taking her, and they're still in the dungeon, and part of it, and I think that Victor built this maze or crazy area just to give her space, gave her the brownie, which, you know, she's now tripping, and I think she's actually still in, like, the room next to her cell. I think they're still in the same space they've always been. She's just tripping balls.
I could buy into that.
Yeah.
You just gave me a thought.
Okay.
Genie Vesson, like a Jinn.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
That would be really cool. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead, keep going. The
you
Jafar
thinking-
thing. That just threw me. I was like, a Jinn.
It'd be fun.
Awesome.
All right, we're running low on time, guys. But
I stand by my Jafar statement.
yeah, I think that would be very interesting because Claire Coffey, spoiler alert, dropped the hint to us that she is going to be returning to Portland with Victor. So maybe she goes back, but not knowing that it's him.
Oh.
Maybe this is all the brownie and everything else is some sort of enchantment or spell that will help them hone in on wherever Diana is. Because she is the mother, so like blood, we know in this world, in the Grimm world, is
Ties in,
very,
yeah.
very important.
Yeah. Interesting.
So many.
Oh, and
possibilities.
did we talk about how when they were talking about doing the spell to try and reverse, Nyx thing. They were like, wow, she must have had to lost her powers and had to go through this process with the baby. And it was just like, wow.
She would have had to sleep with him while pregnant.
It was like, there's a spell in her book that has all of those circumstances built up. That's pretty crazy.
I don't know that it was necessarily in the book as much as like as she's looking at what the spell is and like realizing like what it is, and she just knows this stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
she's very powerful
from experience. She's like, well, that wouldn't have worked. Unless she was. Oh, but then okay. Like it's a science. It's very much a science. Like without saying like our version of science proof of it. There is a science to it, and she is one of the most accomplished scientists. Talking about Elizabeth and Adeline to a certain extent.
Did we? It was awesome when she vogued, and like her whole body went crazy Hex and Beast mode.
It answers our question of does your whole body vogue?
Yeah.
Because we have said that yes for Fuchsbau for sure, and now also for.
It might just depend on the Vessin.
I don't think so. I think you vogue. You're head to toe.
There are Vessin who keep more human lower halves. Octopus head, the Cadactus Esser.
Well, he had the pink hands, but that's it.
Oh.
So it's different. It's a little bit different.
Here's why we need him back, so that we can see where it vogues.
She wants him to vogue shirtless.
Thank you.
There's 8 of a lot of things.
You just made her that.
I'm so writing that
Yael
story.
is going to
Fan
leave
fiction.
here and just put pen to paper.
Yeah. Get
So,
ready for fanfic.
I think that's going to do it, guys, for this week at Grimm's After Show.
Are we doing predictions?
Well, we didn't see next week's previously on
we didn't
because
get to see
we
next
ended to record this early, so we only saw a screener copy.
I still have predictions.
All right, Marissa, do we have time for predictions?
Here we go.
I just
Okay.
Just Yael's prediction.
We've been predicting.
AFTERBUZZ TV prediction.
I stand by my statements that Victor is Jafaring and
Jafaring.
And
It's a verb.
Yes, I think that Trouble is going to infiltrate this FBI group to figure out what the deal is. I think Wu will know by the end of, by winter finale. He will know what's happening. He will not know about Renard.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me predict.
Okay.
I don't have a prediction, but I got to point out at the very end of the episode where Juliet's thin and they're like, what? And they're like, me?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see in the background, Trouble is just not really paying attention, just shoving her mouth full of food. And I was just like, yes, I love Trouble so much. She just doesn't care.
No,
She's
I missed that.
And then she puts food in her mouth and then she just turns and kind of looks at all of them like, what's going on? And then she's just eating.
It's kind of like Jacqueline was like, oh, great. My job is to pretend to eat. Oh, wait, do I have to say something? No? Okay.
It was awesome.
I have a question. What do you think they wanted from Julie? What do they need from her? Yeah.
That's a good.
That's a good prediction.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
You're right.
Blood?
Blood's the obvious choice.
Yeah, too easy.
I mean, well, you know
Maybe
what?
she has to drink some kind of potion or spell and transform,
And then have sex with him?
him.
I was thinking that too.
It could be, though. It could be as simple as her consent, because we know that she doesn't want to right now.
No, I think it's more than that. It has to be more than that.
Yeah. That's lame.
Because they built it up too much for it to just be consent.
Right.
Otherwise, they would have just called her on the phone and been like, hey, Julia, we can
Yeah.
get powers back.
Well, no, but the idea of something willingly given versus begrudgingly given in magic.
Yeah, I guess,
if you
I
think
guess.
about the first thing I think of is the Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter, the spell that brings Voldemort back. Spoiler alert for 15 years ago.
Doesn't count. It's your fault.
The idea of the bone of the father unwillingly given, the flesh of the servant willingly given, the blood of the enemy forcibly taken.
Right.
Those things make a big difference in magic spells. So I think that the Juliet would have to give something. Wanting him to have his powers back would be a big step and would be very difficult for Juliet, who is struggling with this.
Right.
Because she has to mean it. That means she has to mean it.
Yeah. All right. I guess.
Okay.
I was just hoping it was more along the sex line.
Yeah, we'll get sexy times between characters. Don't you worry.
We better.
Well, that I think is going to do it for this week. This has been the Grimm After Show here at AfterBuzz TV. We were talking about the episode Dyin on a Prayer.
Thank you to
Opposed
Bree.
to living on a prayer.
Yes, thank you so much one more time to Bree Turner for coming in. I cannot thank her enough. It was a blast. You can follow her at she said at Real Bree Turner, RealBreeTurner.
Yeah.
Yael Tygiel, where can people follow you?
The people can follow me at Yael.tv. That's YAEL.tv. There you'll find info about all the stuff I do here at AfterBuzz, including Constantine on Sundays, Law & Order Special Victims Unit. Yeah, I like that show a lot. And many other shows. Also, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Google+, at Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL. And I want you to tweet at me your dirty ships. Yeah, send those over.
All right, well, I'll take it from there. You can find me on Twitter at Dillon Chance or on Instagram at Dillon.Chance or right here on Wednesdays for Star Wars Rebels.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at @ZachWilson, ThatZachWilson, and also here at AfterBuzz, a ton of shows, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Sleepy Hollow, Resurrection. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.